What if I told you that one simple belief, one handwritten check, and one unshakable vision could change an entire life? What if I told you that a man who once lived in a van, who struggled to feed his family, who faced rejection after rejection, eventually became one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood? This is not fiction. This is not exaggeration. This is the true story of Jim Carrey, a man who believed in something before the world believed in him. A man who saw success long before success saw him. Today's story is not just about fame or money. It's about manifestation, visualization, faith, and relentless action. So sit back, listen carefully, because this story might just change the way you see your own life. Jim Carrey was born on January 17, 1962, in Newmarket, Ontario, Canada. His childhood was not glamorous. There were no silver spoons. There were no connections, only hardship and uncertainty. Jim's father, Percy Carrey, was a talented musician and accountant, but like many dreamers, Percy gave up his passion to choose stability. Ironically, even that stability disappeared. When Jim was a teenager, his father lost his job. The Carrey family lost their home. They were forced to live in a van for some time. Later, they lived in a tent on a relative's lawn. Imagine that. A teenage boy watching his parents struggle, watching dreams crumble, watching fear sit at the dinner table. Jim and his siblings dropped out of school temporarily to work as janitors and security guards at a factory, just to survive. Most people would have accepted defeat, but Jim didn't. Inside him, something was growing. Even during the darkest days, Jim had a gift. He could make people laugh. He would come home after long, exhausting shifts and perform silly impressions for his family. For those few minutes, the pain disappeared. Jim realized something powerful very early in life. Laughter is medicine, and imagination is escape. At school, Jim was known as the class clown. Teachers often complained, but students loved him. Comedy wasn't just entertainment for Jim. It was survival. Deep inside, Jim began to imagine a different life. A life where he was successful. A life where his family was safe. A life where he could finally say, "We made it." At just 15 years old, Jim tried stand-up comedy for the first time. And he failed. Badly. The audience didn't laugh. The silence was painful. The rejection was crushing. Most teenagers would quit, but Jim didn't. He went back. Again. And again. And again. Night after night. Small clubs. Tiny audiences. Little money. But something magical was happening. Jim wasn't just performing. He was seeing his future. One evening in the late 1980s, Jim drove his old car up to Mulholland Drive in Los Angeles. At that time, Jim was still struggling. Auditions were failing. Money was scarce. But instead of giving up, Jim did something extraordinary. He took out a checkbook, and he wrote himself a check, paid to the order of Jim Carrey. Amount, $10 million. For acting services rendered. He dated it Thanksgiving 1995. Then he sat in his car, looked at the city lights, and imagined. He imagined directors calling him. He imagined movie sets. He imagined success. Not hoping, not wishing, believing. Jim later said, "I knew it was going to happen. I could feel it." He folded that check and kept it in his wallet. Manifestation alone was not enough. Jim still faced rejection. He auditioned again and again. Sometimes he was laughed at, sometimes ignored, but he never let rejection define him. Instead, he repeated affirmations. He visualized success. He stayed focused. And slowly, things began to shift. He landed a role on In Living Color. Then came Ace Ventura. Then The Mask. Then Dumb and Dumber. In 1994, Jim Carrey became a superstar. By 1995, Jim earned $10 million for a film. The same year written on the check, Jim later revealed that just before Thanksgiving 1995, his father passed away. Jim found the check in his wallet. It was now worthless, but priceless. He said, "My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that was possible. So he made a conservative choice, and that choice didn't work out." Jim realized something profound. You can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. Jim Carrey later clarified something important. Manifestation is not magic. It is clarity plus belief plus action. It is seeing your future so clearly that your mind begins to move toward it automatically. He said, ask the universe for what you want, and then be ready to receive it. But Jim also learned that success alone doesn't bring happiness. After achieving fame and wealth, he went through depression. And that's when he understood, you are not your success. You are not your failure. You are the awareness behind it. Jim Carrey's story teaches us something powerful. You don't need permission to dream. You don't need approval to believe. If a poor boy living in a van can imagine himself successful and turn it into reality, so can you. Write your check, visualize your future, take action, and never stop believing. Because manifestation is not about money, it's about becoming the person who believes they deserve more.